is perhaps the best-loved story of the modern age. The fantastic tale of an epic quest to save a world in conflict. The literary trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, comes to life in the first of 3 films from New Line Cinema.
The film is a mythic quest to destroy a ring which will rid the world of a great evil.
There are markings. It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
There are few who can.
At first glance, the movie conjures up a world completely different from our own. Yet, this world is under threat in a way that is strangely familiar.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
If you ever read Lord of the Rings, you feel as if it could have actually existed.
Who created The Lord of the Rings? And what real-life events inspired him?
He's brought a lot of his experiences of the horror of war into the story, and you know, it's important to us that we portray it as a very destructive, very horrifying experience.
How does this imagined world shed light on mysteries about our own ancestral past? And how did a vanishing tradition on Earth inspire one of the movie's most amazing features? A race of elves with their own language.
One of my favorite Elvish lines is Lau hirnin udalaniriu anirach nuilu guanad un gwaithlin.
Does this quest to rid the world of evil reflect our contemporary struggle?
The journey that Frodo takes is to undo a huge evil. Could we do that in this modern day? Could we knowingly unmake something that we know should never have come into being?
I wish none of this had happened.
Join us now as we go beyond the movie to explore the surprising connections between our own world and the fictional realm of the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings takes place in a mythical world, with great kingdoms spread across a vast continent. In this place called Middle-earth, all is not well. This world is going through a change of epochs. The forces of good and evil clash in an epic battle that will determine the future course of Middle-earth. But one small spot is isolated from the conflict, its inhabitants blissfully unaware of the dangers beyond their fertile fields. It is the town of Hobbiton, a village in the idyllic land called the Shire. Here, a wizard named Gandalf visits a small race known as the Hobbits, who have been blessed with peace for centuries. The creator of this mythical place was visionary author J.R.R. Tolkein. His imagination spawned The Lord of the Rings, an epic tale that some have called the story of the century.
I think it's an incredibly philosophical story, and in a lot of ways the meditations on friendship and courage and humility, and in not shying away from the darkness of one's soul, as well as the lightness.
Most fantasies are sort of in the air. They haven't got a base.
Publisher Rainer Unwin shared a lifelong friendship with Tolkien.
Now, Tolkien's fantasy is unique insofar as it was rooted in realities.
What are the real-life roots of The Lord of the Rings? Tolkien's story began in the English hamlet of Sarehole. The rural landscape surrounding his village played a critical role in shaping Tolkien. He not only developed an intense love of nature, but the deep sense of responsibility to protect it. Tolkien came of age in an insular world, where people felt safe and far removed from the turmoil about to break over Europe.
This is a great area for childhood adventures, the village and the surroundings of Sarehole. There's the mill behind us where Tolkien and his brother climbed over to annoy the miller and look at what was going on. There was the woods, the Moseley Bog, just a few hundred yards to our left there. I think landscapes have a powerful effect on any writer. You can see quite close connections between, say, the Sarehole area and what comes out in the books.
Okay, all right, let's go.
The Lord of the Rings director, Peter Jackson, chose to film the movie version of Middle-earth in his homeland of New Zealand. But finding the perfect spot to depict Hobbiton wasn't easy.
Hobbiton was a very important location for us to find. There was a difficulty in that New Zealand does not have a lot of that English rural landscape with the hedgerows and the green rolling fields and the type of image that you definitely have of Hobbiton if you read the books. So we explored the country north, south, east and west and found this little pocket.
And one of the scouts had located a piece of land on the back of a farmer's huge place. And we walked in and thought, my God, we've just come to the Shire. And I just sat down and started drawing ideas because the landscape itself was suggesting where things should go.
One of the things that's essential with Hobbiton is that this place has to look like hobbits have lived here for hundreds of years. And so we actually started to plant vegetables in the gardens of Hobbiton about a year before our filming. We had to plant cabbages and Brussels sprouts and carrots, just allowing Hobbiton to sort of germinate and seed and become a real place.
Lord of the Rings is a mythology, it is a fairy tale, it's an adventure story. It never happened, except somewhere in our hearts. And yet there was Hobbiton in 3 dimensions and smoke coming out of the holes where they live underground. And I believed.
Who are the hobbits that Gandalf is so enamored of? And do they have a foundation in reality?
It's wonderful to see you, Gandalf!
Hobbits are a breed of people from the Shire, which is kind of the rural sort of countryside of Middle-earth. Really gorgeous and kind of untouched. And hobbits are rural people, you know, people of the land, farmers. They don't know what's going on in the rest of Middle-earth.
At the center of the story is an unusual hobbit named Frodo Baggins.
Frodo is very curious about the outside world, like the rest of the hobbits. Hobbits at nature tend to want to stay in the Shire. They don't want to leave the Shire. They want to be safe. They want to be where they're comfortable.
The hobbits are actually quite close to the people that Tolkien grew up with as a child in this rural area just outside Birmingham. And he kind of treasured memories of these more simple folk and kind of recreated them in the hobbits.
I particularly like Gandalf the Grey playing around with the hobbits. He likes very much. Mainly because they like a good drink and a good chat and a good feed and a good smoke.
They love the earth, they love life, they love to eat. You know, if they can have 6 meals and a good drink at the end and have a song, then the hobbits will be quite happy.
I think it's very important to show at the start of the movie that there is a part of the world which is worth saving. You know, all the things that we go through are worth doing because of this amazing place called the Shire.
Go on.
While life in the Shire seems secure, beyond its borders, evil creatures, commanded by a dark lord, are enveloping the countryside. By the time Tolkien reached his teens, his childhood home was under a comparable threat. The tentacles of industry had spread to Sarehole. Tolkien was horrified as he saw the destruction of his cherished landscape by rampant development. England's Industrial Revolution, which peaked a century before, had enslaved children in factories. Families and farmers were sent into coal mines to feed the insatiable hunger for fuel.
All the time that Tolkien was here, I think he was aware that the city was getting closer. It was something that he felt very sad about. He could see the city creeping up the hill and beginning to surround the area. We can see many of the great contrasts in Lord of the Rings, the contrast between the green of this area and the black beyond it.
People were trying to grapple with how this was going to affect the human experience. And so he was hearkening back in a way to a community, this utopia, if you will, that's really under threat. It's being attacked from evil forces.
Tolkien's England was about to be swept up by an even more destructive force. World War I would also have a dramatic impact on the Hobbiton of his imagination.
It's quite cool.
In the film, the wizard Gandalf recognizes the danger embodied in a simple band of gold.
Can you see anything?
In The Lord of the Rings, Gandalf has come to warn Frodo about a ring that the Hobbit has inherited.
There's nothing. Wait.
Rings are powerful things, and there's no end to a ring. It goes round and round and round, and within it can be contained, I suppose, great evil as well as great positive force.
There are markings. It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
In the common tongue, it says, one ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, fight them.
The One Ring is a talisman, isn't it? It's an instrument of power. A brilliant idea, because rings, of course, have definitely been involved in all history and in all legend and in all myth with ultimate almighty power.
They've reached the Shire. They will find the ring. And kill the one who carries it. Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands in a second darkness.
Gandalf tells Frodo that he must take the ring away from the Shire before the terrible forces searching for it find him there. So Frodo sets off to remove the danger from his homeland, accompanied by 3 Hobbit friends, Sam, Merry, and Pippin.
I think it's important that it is, this very small, kind of humble race of people that live in this tiny community that actually provide the hero that's able to go off, make this fantastic journey and defeat all these powerful forces.
Powerful forces were also marching toward conflict during Tolkien's early adulthood. 1914. Great Britain joins her allies and enters the First World War. Like Tolkien's map of Middle-earth, the political boundaries of Europe are shifting in a deadly power play by the Central Forces. The result is dubbed the War to End All Wars. By 1916, Tolkien and most of his Oxford classmates are sent off to the front lines, to join an alliance against a great common enemy.
It was a glorious thing to lead your men and, if necessary, to die for your king and country.
Paddy King served along with Tolkien in the Lancashire Fusiliers, seen in this rare film footage. As they reached the front line, the young men's heroic image of war clashed with the horrific reality of the battlefield. Their vivid impressions were expressed in reports sent home.
In front of us was a line 20 miles deep, entrenched and fortified, defended by masses of machine gun posts. No chance for cavalry. Philip Gibbs.
The average life of an infantry subaltern, you're lucky if he lasted 6 weeks, I should think.
The front line was a terrible scar running across green, rural, hilly fields. It was a scar composed of mud and blood and blasted chalk.
Tolkien arrived at the front in June 1916. It was his regiment's first combat assignment. The soldiers anxiously prepared for a major assault near a river called the Somme.
Before dawn, there was a great silence. We spoke to each other in whispers, if we spoke at all. Then suddenly, our guns opened out in a barrage of fire with colossal intensity. Philip Gibbs.
The Somme was the major battle on the Western Front in the sense that it lasted 4 months and it involved huge numbers of men.
Some of the very earliest writings of Middle-earth that Tolkien created were done in pencil on a notebook while he was in the trenches in the First World War, and that's where Middle-earth was born.
In Tolkien's view, the rigid class boundaries separating English officers and their subordinates began to evaporate amidst the horrors of war.
The structure of the army in Britain at that time was very class-based. Officers were selected from men who had been to university, men like Tolkien. The infantry, the other ranks, as they were known, were your ordinary bloke. In the case of Tolkien's battalion, they were miners and weavers from Lancashire. The contrast exists in Lord of the Rings. Frodo is a well-to-do, educated, middle-class hobbit, and Sam is his gardener.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
He's a country lad, effectively.
Come on, Sam.
Whatever bond is there between them is a reflection, as Tolkien said, of the bond he saw between officers and ordinary men.
While the bond he felt with his wartime comrades certainly influenced his future writing, the images of war had perhaps an even more striking impact on Tolkien's vision.
At night, everything around them apart from the sky would disappear, and they would advance towards this terrible noise. A sky that was lit rather like the sky is lit in Mordor by the flickering of Mount Doom.
He's brought a lot of his experiences of the horror of war into the story, and you know, it's important to us that we portrayed it as a very destructive, very horrifying experience.
Frodo and his friends undergo just such an experience in an underground realm called Moria. At the Battle of the Somme, Tolkien and his comrades found themselves pitted against the monstrous war machines of the Industrial Age. Tanks, poison gas, and machine guns literally mowed men down in a brutal onslaught. By the end of the first day of battle, 38,000 British soldiers had been wounded and 19,000 killed. It was the deadliest day in British military history. But numbers alone cannot express Tolkien's sense of personal devastation. Among the dead was one of his closest boyhood friends. His memories of the Somme and his writings in the trench would eventually find their way into The Lord of the Rings.
The mythology was evolving in his mind to a point where, when he returned home, he was ready to launch into a very ambitious piece of writing.
After World War I, Tolkien began to teach, eventually earning a coveted position at Oxford University. Here, the scholar built on his youthful passion for ancient languages and history. Tolkien said he didn't invent Middle-earth, he rediscovered it. And he found his greatest source in the culture, history, and languages of the early Middle Ages. In the movie, Gandalf goes to an ancient library, where he seeks to confirm his suspicion that the ring is the evil creation of the Dark Lord Sauron.
Gandalf early on recognizes that they have got the one true ring, and he discovers it by going to the great library in Minas Tirith, and by looking up in books discovers the truth. Well, so Gandalf the academic, Tolkien was an academic himself. I think there's a lot of Tolkien in Gandalf.
Gandalf's discovery at the Great Library prompts a gathering of representatives from across Middle-earth to discuss the fate of the ring. Here, Frodo volunteers to be the ring-bearer and carry the ring to Mount Doom, where it must be destroyed.
Here! Mr. Frodo's not going anywhere without me.
We're coming too! You'll have to send us home tied up in a sack to stop us.
8 individuals offer to accompany Frodo on his quest.
You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring.
The newly formed Fellowship undertakes an epic journey over a landscape steeped in history. The ruins strewn across Middle-earth can be likened to England's ancient ruins. The archaeological remains of multiple cultures, from the mysterious Neolithic monument of Stonehenge to the ruins left from 4 centuries of Roman rule.
Tolkien was clearly feeding off the landscape and culture that he knew so well in the middle of England.
The era that Tolkien knew best is called the Anglo-Saxon period, which gave rise to one of today's most dominant languages, English.
The word England is the land where you find the Angles.
Professor Martin Carver of the University of York is an eminent archaeologist familiar with the terrain of Anglo-Saxon history.
The Angles spoke English. That's why we speak it.
The Angles and Saxons were Germanic seafaring warriors who sailed to Britannia in the 5th century. They fought as mercenaries in a period of great migration and tribal battles all over Europe.
It's a big period of change, massive, in the 5th and 6th century, tremendous change.
During this change of epochs, the Anglo-Saxons settled in England. Since they were mostly illiterate, the sagas about their heroic seafaring ancestors were passed down through story and song.
There's a roaring fire, and the mead, the ale, is going round. People are singing. And out of those songs and out of the conversation comes all the shared values. I mean, all the things that people want to perpetuate.
Most of these mythic tales were lost after the Norman conquest of England in the 11th century. As Anglo-Saxon culture was eclipsed, their great oral tradition died. Tolkien felt the English people had been robbed of part of their roots with the loss of these oral tales. He was inspired to write a new mythology for England.
The mythology that Tolkien created is absolutely astonishing. I think he said that he wanted to provide the United Kingdom, which doesn't have many myths, to establish a national identity.
It's a sort of condensed version of Anglo-Saxon European history, and therefore it's got the density, the reality, and the importance that any real myth and legend has.
One of the few sources Tolkien could turn to for clues about Anglo-Saxon mythology was their great epic poem, Beowulf. Tolkien studied every line of the heroic saga, becoming one of the world's leading Beowulf scholars. It tells the tale of a monster-slaying Scandinavian king who dies fighting a dragon others refuse to face. One of Beowulf's most vivid scenes describes a king's solemn burial at sea in the hold of his ship, surrounded by treasures. For centuries, it had been considered merely a legend. Then, a stunning discovery was made in 1939. At Sutton Hoo, on England's eastern seaboard, British archaeologists unearthed an ancient ship, the burial chamber of an Anglo-Saxon king. The excavation site was filled with amazing treasures.
Everybody was very excited, all these beautiful things coming out of the ground. This extraordinary burial was itself a sort of poem. You know, people put together special objects in a special way. Sutton Hoo started to look like the reality behind Beowulf. Tolkien would have had knowledge of the Sutton Hoo discovery, the great ship burial, because it was 1939, just about the time that he was starting to write The Lord of the Rings.
In the movie, the Fellowship reaches the underground burial chamber of a dwarf chieftain. Sadly, the tomb has been desecrated. Yet it reflects the type of reverence that Anglo-Saxons felt for their leaders.
Here lies Balin, son of Hundin, Lord of Moria. He is dead then.
Archaeological research has continued at Sutton Hoo for more than 60 years. Because of its importance in uncovering the lost world of Anglo-Saxon England, it is considered a crown jewel of British archaeology.
A lot of our students have read Tolkien, and now they want to do Anglo-Saxon archaeology. They move from the fictional to the historical and want to know more about what really happened at that time, as we all do.
One of the most spectacular treasures at Sutton Hoo is the buried king's helmet.
The strong ridge piece that goes right over the top of the head, which protects you from a blow with a sword, that's actually it's a dragon, and it has two little beady garnet eyes which look out at you, and then a snarling jaw.
The creatures depicted on Anglo-Saxon helmets provide insight into the values and beliefs held at that time.
Tolkien explains to us that the monsters embody people's hopes and fears. I think that's a good way of looking at it. When we look at Anglo-Saxon metalwork and we see these writhing monsters, the animals are metaphors. They're containing all sorts of messages: valor, loyalty, spite. In a non-literary society, the metalsmiths are the poets, aren't they? They're the people who give you something permanent. Instead of a book, it's something that lasts forever. And this is where studies of people like Tolkien were so helpful, and particularly when he let his imagination really run.
The filmmakers of The Lord of the Rings used Tolkien's imagination as their guide in creating the movie's 48,000 pieces of armor and weaponry.
Culture, I believe, is based in detail. It's based in generations of characters, of people, of species, building on top of the past generation's work. Every belt is in some way hand-tooled to feel like it has been touched by the craftsmanship of the species that wears it. One of the most important things to me was that we generated a very strong feeling of culture. The shapes and forms and details and fluting that we were able to get in the armour can only be done by the processes of the anvil, the hammer, the jenny, the furnace that was generated in times past.
Pick up a weapon. My own happened to be outrageously beautiful, but anything around you that you see, the detail, is just fantastic. I mean, it's mind-blowing. You just can't help but marvel at the time and energy and love that's been put into all of it.
That attention to detail is surpassed only by the myriad layers of history Tolkien imagined when he created Middle-earth.
He's created a mythological world which has the most extraordinary depth. You can scrape away the surface and there is more information that Tolkien created going back thousands of years.
Along his journey, Frodo encounters one of Tolkien's most captivating creations, the elves.
Will you look into the mirror?
What will I see?
Frodo meets Galadriel, queen of the elves, who offers him a glimpse of the future.
For the mirror shows many things. Things that were, things that are.
The elves' own future entails a passage to life beyond Middle-earth.
Galadriel's queen of the elves, and the elves are passing over. They are moving on beyond Middle-earth. There's a sadness, a bittersweetness about what she and her kind are going through.
Of all Middle-earth's races, the elves were closest to Tolkien's heart. They are the ideal beings, pure, beautiful, and immortal. Tolkien devoted a considerable amount of his creative energy to conceiving this ethereal race.
I think one of the most amazing elements of Lord of the Rings is the elves, and the fact that Tolkien created an existence for them. He actually created a language.
The comprehensive and elegant languages Tolkien invented are collectively called Elvish.
One of my favorite Elvish lines is Lau hirnin udalaniriu anirach nuilu guanad uin gwaithlin.
One of Tolkien's primary inspirations for Elvish is a language that can be heard today in Väinö Karelia, a remote region of villages and lakes spanning the Finnish and Russian border. Its residents are mostly elders, whose children have moved away to the modern world. The epic song still heard here is the Kalevala, the land of the heroes, a voluminous work considered to be the single most important expression of Finnish heritage. As a teenager, Tolkien was enthralled by the Kalevala. He taught himself Finnish to better understand this monumental collection of ancient epic poems. Jussi Huovinen is Finland's last great rune singer. He has committed nearly the entire Kalevala to memory, learning from his elders.
when Jussi passes on, it's going to be the equivalent of having a great library burned to the earth. And that's what it's like when an elder like him dies.
Did the shaman gather wild plants? Did they ever...
National Geographic explorer in residence, Wade Davis, has traveled here to listen to the Kalevala. He's an anthropologist with a deep concern over the loss of languages.
When you were born, when I was born, there were 6,000 languages spoken on Earth. As we speak, fully 3,000 of those 6,000 languages are no longer being whispered into the ears of babies. They're not being taught to children, which means that effectively, unless something changes, they're already dead. Now, a language isn't just a body of vocabulary or set of grammatical rules. It's a flash of the human spirit. And when we lose a language, we lose a vital element of the human dream.
Music instructor Pekka Hutu Hiltunen hopes to learn even a fraction of the lengthy Kalevala from Jussi.
It was a very important moment for me about 10 years ago when I met Jussi and I first heard him to sing, and I suddenly realized I had to hold my chair, that he really is sitting here singing to me the voice of my ancestors thousands and thousands of years ago.
How did you learn the cycle of songs?
I began to learn when I was a little child, and having heard the elders sing the songs, which come from generation to generation, I realized that most of the events that a person ends up experiencing in his life are in this poem.
The Kalevala parallels the real history of the Finns, who migrated north at the end of the last ice age. Linguists believe the origins of the saga and its language date back to a more nomadic time.
And it goes back to the time of the shaman. It goes back to the pre-agricultural times of Finland. It goes back to the time when people had no written word, when people lived by the poetry of an oral tradition, where by definition the entire language was a vocabulary of the best storyteller.
It is said that the Kalevala's poetic meter came from the rhythm of singing while rowing on the lakes of Karelia. The tradition of the Kalevala was almost lost when the Swedes began their domination of Finland in the late Middle Ages. By the 19th century, most educated Finns spoke Swedish. Then, a country doctor named Elias Lönnrot traveled to the wilds of Karelia in the 1830s. This was the last place on Earth where the rune songs were still being sung. By writing down the words of the rustic rune singers, something the Karelians had rarely done, Lönnrot saved the tradition. He organized the songs into a linear story and called it the Kalevala. This mythology for Finland gave its people a sense of identity, which proved especially significant during the tumultuous 20th century.
If it wasn't for the Kalevala, Finland wouldn't have its independence, its language, and we would all be speaking either Russian or Swedish.
Today, a small portion of the poem is sung at Finnish sporting events, and children learn a few key verses at school. The Kalevala's themes pervade the Finnish Festival of Light, when this land of interminably dark winters celebrates the longest day of the year. J.R.R. Tolkein was inspired by the Kalevala and turned to it as he began inventing the languages of Middle-earth.
He was trying to construct languages which had a similar inner feel to something he admired. Quenya, the Elvish Latin, I think is quite clearly based on Finnish. He very much liked Finnish. He very much liked the Finnish literary tradition, which attracted him from an early age.
Tolkien was fascinated by more than the Kalevala's language. he found eternal themes and archetypal characters there as well. The Kalevala's hero is a wise old leader with magical powers.
The central figure is Väinämöinen, a great shaman who casts spells to achieve his goals and improve his people's social conditions.
The obvious parallel is the wizard Gandalf, who also employs the power of words. The Lord of the Rings and the Kalevala share another key element. At the center of both stories is a powerful forged object. In the Finnish poem, it's called the Sampo. Like the ring, it brings its owner great fortune, but in the end is destroyed to secure peace.
What ultimately is the lesson of the Kalevala?
What I get most from the Kalevala poems is their emphasis on doing good for your people, on doing things for their benefit and their joy.
The themes of loyalty and sacrifice run deep through the Lord of the Rings.
It's so beautiful because, for me and I think for everyone, you can't do anything without the encouragement of your loved ones and friends to help you through things.
In our modern world, we cherish the individual at the expense of the community. When I look at photographs of Karelia 100 years ago, I get very much the same feeling that I did with Jussi. Here I felt like I was in the presence of 15,000 years of history in this one human being. And I also felt a deep sadness because I also felt that I was at the end point of that place. I felt that in the village that we visited, it was as much a village as a shadow of a former self. Jussi was the only person living there.
The Kalevala, like all mythology, depicts the struggle of good versus evil. In creating The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien was keenly aware of this conflict, having experienced it firsthand in World War I. But he could not imagine that an even darker and more destructive force was about to grip the world. (1939). Germany invades Poland. The Nazis are waging a campaign of terror against the Jews. Britain declares war, and J.R.R. Tolkien has begun a manuscript which he now titles The Lord of the Rings.
The first few chapters were quite jolly. Then we got the war, and then we had periods when he hardly could write at all. It was a deeply depressing war for him, for most of us. But he had sons exposed in battle, and everything that he believed in seemed to be breaking up.
I'm very taken with the fact that Tolkien was writing Lord of the Rings during the Second World War. That Tolkien's own son, Christopher, was serving in Europe, fighting the ultimate evil.
Tolkien clearly understood the horrifying nature of evil, which he personified in some of Middle-earth's most powerful leaders. The chief wizard, Saruman, is one such character. He has created an army of monstrous soldiers in his bid to obtain the world-conquering power of the ring.
One of the halflings carries something of great value. There have been many Sarumans in my lifetime who started as men of genius and great intellect and power, who went wrong, killed the others.
The war is a factor. His imagination was his own, of course, but there was this background of something very much stronger, more sinister, more dangerous, which you get in the book.
In the summer of 1940, Hitler ordered the bombing of English cities. For 8 months, the British people displayed remarkable courage amid the constant barrage of terror.
It's clearly articulated by Tolkien himself when he said about the war that often small people, ordinary people, are called upon to manifest acts of indomitable courage, and the fact that the English had to suffer through 2 wars during his lifetime must have made him very aware of the suffering and the sacrifices that the British underwent.
Although some literary experts see the influence of World War II on The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien denied a direct parallel.
We have to realize that Tolkien himself was horrified at modern analogies being placed on his work. I mean, he always rejected the notion that the stories were based on World War II and the rise of Hitler and all that. I think this is a story where its mythic qualities and its humanity shines through beyond any political beliefs that could be assigned to it.
Tolkien likely drew on all the events of his lifetime, as well as his knowledge of the past, to create a new mythology for the modern age. The Lord of the Rings gave a new twist to one of ancient mythology's most enduring themes, the quest. Heroes of old usually embarked on a journey to gain something for their people. Tolkien's heroes seek to rid the world of an evil that threatens ultimate destruction. A quest with chilling relevance today.
The journey that Frodo takes is to undo a huge evil. Could we do that in this modern day? Could we knowingly unmake something that we know should never have come into being?
Get off the road!
The idea of the heroic quest has never died. A curious modern parallel to Frodo's journey recently took place in the vast African Congo.
It was a giant quest for me, and the quest was, let's think about these ecosystems. Let's think about the fact that they are more intact than just about any place else on Earth, and we are plowing them over as fast as we possibly can with no thought of the destruction.
Michael Fay is an ecologist with the Wildlife Conservation Society. Accompanied by 8 Ba'aka guides, he embarked on a nearly impossible expedition. Fay would attempt to travel 2,000 miles across a landscape few humans had ever seen, taking him all the way through Congo and Gabon to the Atlantic Ocean. Like Frodo's quest to save Hobbiton, Fay set out to rescue a precious place. He hoped to convince the world to spare this rainforest from logging by gathering detailed information on its irreplaceable plants and wildlife.
It was certainly the most grandiose and impossible journey that I could think of.
It's crazy. Okay, wow.
And the probability of it succeeding was very low, and I knew that from the outset.
Fay cherishes this part of Africa, where he has lived for 20 years. As his passion for ecology continues to grow, he has come to appreciate Tolkien's myth about saving what is precious in the world.
That book took me very deep into this great adventure, to a place where human beings are not superior to anything else, and that's certainly stayed with me now.
The stakes are just as high today as they were in Tolkien's time. The evil Fay wants to save his world from is unrestrained development.
The destructive power of mechanized machines are just orders and orders of magnitude beyond anything that ever happened before they came around. There's no doubt that ecosystems on the planet are disappearing much faster than the human race has a capacity to survive.
15 months after he departed, Michael Fay successfully completed his 2,000-mile trek when he reached the Atlantic Ocean. But his true quest has barely begun: to inspire in humanity an increased responsibility for protecting the Earth. The same conviction infuses The Lord of the Rings, a story that began with Tolkien's love for the land. It is also the message delivered by the Queen of the Elves.
She's handing on the torch to humankind. She's challenging the viewers to say, what are you going to do with the Earth? We've had this paradise, so now you men, you humankind, have the responsibility of this Earth. I think it's a very profound message.
Middle-earth is a mythological place, but it is rooted in reality, having been imagined by a man who witnessed the very worst in human nature and understood humanity's greatest potential. By volunteering to be the ring-bearer, Frodo shows that an ordinary individual can help guide humanity through tumultuous times. Tolkien's hero is an everyman we can admire and emulate, the type of hero so needed today.
There are groups of people who desperately want a decent world, a good world. Right now, as we are speaking, I think I'm probably right in saying there are more conflicts, and in some cases wars, than there have ever been in history. So, what are we going to do about it? Where's the ring bearer?